Rosjan Cutajar denied using vulgar language in Parliament, 5 patients die while positive for COVID-19, and Malta's Attorney General silent over AFM sexual harassment charges. All this and more on today's episode of Lovin Daily. Good evening, Malta and Gozo. Welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. Devika Gurpani here, joined by Jonathan Chiria. What another day it's been. Let's jump right into it, John.
So I think one of the big stories of the day is a MP, Rosjan Cutajar, has denied using vulgar language in regards opposition MP Claudette Buttigieg. So I do have to warn you, there is going to be some colourful language in this here report. And if you want to see the full video of what we're going to talk about, check it out on Lovin Malta's TikTok page. But basically, a video from a recent sitting in Parliament has been going viral online. As Claudette Buttigieg is speaking and she's giving a bit of an address, she suddenly stops before looking over at Rosjan Cutajar and asking her to confirm whether she just called her a whore. In Maltese, that's ahba. In the video, Buttigieg stops saying, "Do you mind? Excuse me, I hear a lot. And I hope that the adjective the Honourable Cutajar just used wasn't aimed at me." As she just used the word ahba in here, and I just heard it. Could she clarify whether the adjective was used for me or not? Rosjan Cutajar stood up and said, quote, "I want to assure the Honourable Buttigieg that we absolutely weren't speaking in reference to her." However, since then the video has gone viral online. A lot of people are reacting to it. Lovin Malta actually reached out to Rosjan Cutajar to kind of confirm and clarify whether she did refer to another female MP using such language or whether, what happened exactly. And she said to us, quote, "I was speaking privately to our whip with no reference to Claudette Buttigieg, and the word wasn't used to the point that the speaker said he didn't hear anything himself. I assured her myself that we weren't speaking about her, and the adjective wasn't used in her regard. This is not the type of language I use."
Look, I'm definitely no prude. We've all heard these words before. We've all probably said them even though we might have not wanted to, and especially hopefully not in this regard that Buttigieg might have thought that she was being called. Maybe there is a little bit of a difference between, a person celebrating in a casino and an elected official in Parliament, but all I can say is thank God for channels like Parliament TV because they keep giving us gems. Moving on from Parliament to hospital, sadly, 5 people have died in the last 24 hours while positive for COVID-19. Of course, this means that they might have had other underlying conditions, as we've sadly come to understand in the last 2 years. This week has seen 9 deaths so far. Meanwhile, however, cases have been relatively low as of late. We haven't really been breaching anything past 220 to 140, and I remind you that some restrictions have been lifted since then. So it's looking potentially hopeful. Of course, how many times have we said that before? But it really is. In the last 10 days, our cases went down from 5,000 to just under 2,800. So maybe the fifth hope of the year could be on the horizon. Mixed results are coming from Europe. You have Denmark and France lifting everything, but England registering the most deaths in a year. So a new subvariant, because why not? But it does look like, especially with all the booster doses that are still being jabbed despite all the 5G claims, hopefully hope is on the horizon.
Now, from COVID-19 cases to potential court cases, pressure is mounting on the Attorney General of Malta to explain why a sexual harassment case from the AFM, the Armed Forces of Malta, was suddenly placed under her remit. So this is a story we've reported on before. The allegations in the story revolve around an AFM officer who had allegedly sent, well, not allegedly, he had sent some nude videos as well as videos of him doing lewd acts in the nude, also while wearing the army uniform, to his ex-partner. The ex-partner, showed these videos and these images to authorities, claiming that, this is harassment, sexual harassment from someone in her past, especially the fact that he was wearing a army uniform. A lot of questions were raised. An investigation into this has been quietly moved under the remit of the Attorney General, and many people are asking why. Chief among them is ADPD candidate Sandra Gauci, who during a recent episode of her live streaming show on Facebook, she questioned why it was moved under the Attorney General's remit and said why it got stuck there. Lovin Malta has reached out to the Attorney General to understand, why she's taking on the case. Is there a particular reason she's taking on the case, and whether we are expecting to see any charges in this case?
Look, there are a number of threads to pull at in this case, so namely, of course, the people who are making these claims, for example, including, soldier Godwin Schembri, who himself is a controversial figure, and some people might get a little bit caught up in why he's doing this, whether this is still some, age-old act of vengeance. I think we need to definitely move past that and look at the bigger picture, this underlying problem that we have with sexual harassment, and how bad it can be if it keeps on being unreported and unnoticed or pushed under the rug. And I mean, speaking actually about sexual harassment, gender-based violence, today happens to be the 1-month anniversary of the shocking rape and murder of 29-year-old Paulina Dębska. It's been 31 days, and what an eventful 31 days it's been. Everything from a candlelit vigil attended by hundreds, including prominent politicians like Prime Minister Robert Abela. There's been endless debates on everything from femicide to mental health, very heated arguments on the potentially damaging role that certain religious organizations can have on the upbringing of Malta's future, and most notably and most recently, an amendment to Malta's criminal code itself. This was announced yesterday by Prime Minister Abela, who said that femicide will be listed as a distinct crime in Malta's criminal code. It only took 24 hours for a press conference to be called, with more information being given. This happened just a couple of hours ago. Reforms Minister Owen Bonnici and Justice Minister Edward Zammit-Lewis were in attendance, of course, but they were also joined by Dr. Fleur Abela and Dr. Lara Dimitrovic, who kind of took control of the situation to really explain, the actual intricacies of the law itself, of the amendment rather, and two, why we really need an amendment like this. So clearly, Dębska's murder has left a number of ripples in Malta society, be they legal or not. And speaking of the legal repercussions, the court case into her murder continues this Friday, and murder suspect Abner Aquilina's second sitting will be then stated on Lovin Malta. We will definitely be updating you as we go along, hopefully getting a little bit closer to the end of what has been a very harrowing 31 days for, the entire nation, let alone her family.
Yeah, no, it's very timely that the entire nation kind of talked about women harassment, sexual harassment, femicide. The fact that it came on right at the beginning of the new year, and seeing what happened in the last 31 days, the fact that a law has actually been passed, increasing protections for women and increasing potential charges against people who harm women, just goes to show how far the state has taken this seriously. I think a lot of activists, though, on the other hand, are calling for more, saying, listen, more needs to be done, more training needs to be done, be it with the police, be it with society in general. But, we've just published a bit of a breakdown of everything that's happened since the rape and murder happened 1 month ago. So if you're interested in this, I definitely invite you to check it out on lovinmalta.com. Moving on to the final story, another story that's, involving abuse. Parents of a bullied child have opened up to explain how poorly schools and school authorities react and help out children who are experiencing bullying in Malta. So speaking to Lovin Malta, one parent recounted one particular incident. She said, listen, my daughter has been relentlessly bullied in school. Oftentimes, boys would make mooing sounds, that's cow mooing sounds, whenever she was around, apparently in reference to the daughter's breasts. These are 13-year-old kids, so keep that in mind. Other boys would laugh at it, and obviously the girl in question was feeling extremely bullied by this. When this was brought up to the senior management team of the school, this is actually quite shocking to me. The assistant head told the girl if she wanted to cope with the situation, what she needed to do was just imagine she was a cow grazing in a field. Now, if this was my daughter, I would be livid that that's the advice that the authorities gave to her when she was being bullied. Obviously, something should be done in regards to bullies and not the victim here. And, apparently the boy in question was just called to the head office and told not to do it again. And he just kept on bullying her. Now this girl is actually developing a bit of a trauma, a bit of a fear of attending school because of the incessant bullying. So this is just one story from many, many stories of how authorities, maybe they're not trained enough. Once again, it goes back to issues of training. Maybe they're just not understanding how serious the incident is. But having children being bullied for their physical appearance with sounds being thrown at them in the hallways, and this is how they act, it's definitely not on.
Yeah, I mean, I've been telling my friends I really don't want to use the phrase disappointed but not surprised in 2022, but unfortunately here we are. I'm disappointed, but I'm kind of not surprised. You know, we really need to treat schools for what they are, which is the foundation of the future generations. I mean, even just looking at today's headlines, you know, a number of these stories, whether they're slightly entertaining or frankly shocking, you know, could have probably been avoided or at least not made this shocking with just a little bit better when it comes to education, improvement on the upbringing of our children. I mean, if we really hope that we want to get out of this, these are the people, you know, that we need to be teaching, nourishing, protecting. So, you know, whether it's just a stupid phrase uttered in Parliament or, you know, a horrific crime in Slima, education is the way to go, and let's finally start taking it a little bit more seriously, hopefully with a little bit more of a positive attitude towards the future. And with that, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Have an evening full of lovin'.